League Two is the greatest league in the world, and I truly, truly believe that. I truly believe that. And we've got new leaders at its zenith, and they're called Bradford City, and they beat Crewe by 2 goals to nil, and they started 1-0 up. Oh wait, no, they didn't quite start 1-0 up. It was actually 0-0, as is traditional in a game of football, but they were 1-0 up after 11 seconds. That's what I meant to say. Bobby Poynton, the hometown hero, scoring after 11 seconds, tapping
11
in a
seconds,
rebound.
and it was the third shot of the game. I'd love to know if that's a record.
Oh, God, I just love statistical quirks, George. I wish you could feed me a statistical quirk every minute of every day. I would have such a happy life. It's the fastest EFL goal since October 2020. We all remember Yaku Meite's goal for Reading against Blackburn in October
No one was there to
2020.
see it.
9 seconds that was. Bloody hell, Yaku. Despite going ahead early, I mean, it certainly wasn't a comfy one for Bradford. They had to save a penalty. Sam Walker did that magnificently. It was a pretty good pen right in the corner, and he got across and tipped it wide. Brilliant. Crewe had a goal disallowed through Bogle, which I must admit looked pretty close to me. We're not blessed with a ton of good camera angles in League Two to judge officiating, so I prefer not to do so too much, but did feel like it was the sort of goal that might have stood and might have changed the outlook of the game. Instead, Callum Kavanagh on the break, 2-0 Bradford, and George, finally, we can say Bradford City at the top of the league, because frankly, I expected it like 3 weeks ago. Then they had their own little mini wobble, but they're back. Well, they're on top. They're on top, and the atmosphere at Valley Parade, the colours in the stands, it moved me. It moved me.
Yeah, having had 2 winless games at home to Crewe to kind of set the tempo as they did with that early goal and then run out comfortable winners, it's just a different ball game now, I guess. Like we see this pretty consistently. Teams when you're chasing, maintain the pace, and then as soon as you kind of get there, it's what you do after that. Walsall clearly got very, very lonely out in front, and now come back to the pack. Now that they're the ones chasing, will we see a turnaround in form? Vale, as we'll talk about, Vale are maybe the kind of the informed team at the moment, where even their defeat against Barrow was a pretty good performance, and again they didn't deserve to lose, and they've just beaten Bradford with some ease on Tuesday night. It's going to be really interesting to see from here to the end of the season. Bradford's fixtures look pretty tough to me, like 3 tough away games at Swindon, Chesterfield and Donny. Even the 2 teams they host, Notts County and Fleetwood, whose away form is just unbelievable on final day, looks really tough. Port Vale have a kind of an easier looking run of games. Carlisle's result on Saturdays we'll get onto a second, probably not ideal for Port Vale because they go to them on Good Friday. They also go to AFC Wimbledon on the penultimate Saturday of the season. They also host Grimsby, who are looking great form. So again, even though they're the team who are clearly out of form, they haven't won a game since February the 22nd, it's Walsall whose remaining fixtures look comfortably the easiest. Away at Barrow on Saturday is clearly tough given how well they're playing under Andy Wing. But then they host Harrogate, they go to Newport, they host Accrington, Stanley, 3 teams who look like they're going to probably be just clear of relegation at the time of playing them, but still not playing very well and not particularly good sides. And then away at Crewe on final day, a Crewe side who I'll be pretty surprised after what happened on Saturday if they're involved in anything come final day. So yeah, Walsall's still the bookies' favourites to win the league, which I'm sure will surprise quite a few people given how poor their form is. But when you look at the fixtures, it makes some sense.
George, when you're walking down a flight of steps, probably one that you've not walked down before, so you don't have the knowledge. If you ever miss a step, one of the worst feelings in the world. Missing a step when you're expecting one. ACL central, broken ankles, left, right, centre. Walsall have been missing steps for like 6 weeks, but this time they fell and they're off the top. And they didn't fall to second. They fell all the way to third because they were beaten by the team that are now second, Port Vale. And it was 3-2 at half-time. It was one of the most entertaining halves of football seen in the world this season. We had a disallowed goal after 10 seconds. I think Jamil Matt's goal that was disallowed for a push might have been quicker than Poynton's for Bradford. talking of statistical quirks, if we'd had 2 goals within 11 seconds, wow, I think my mind might have exploded.
Second, I mean, it's a second goal that also have had disallowed for push/strength. That I could just completely, their season could be very, very different.
Push/strength.
Well, that was a push on Saturday.
Right.
In your words, it was strength, wasn't it? You said against Tony.
Yeah, just strength. Amanchi's just a very, very strong. He actually might be one of the strongest players I've seen because he showed it when he stiff-armed Connor Hall to finish off a long throw into the box. That made it 2-1, but we've got to go back to the 1-0 goal because Laurent Tolai, think he's in my top 5 League Two players, possibly makes it into a top 10 total EFL players of this season. I remember watching him once or twice last season at Aldershot, generally because I was watching Josh Stokes, and then I'd watch Josh Stokes and be like, yeah, he's good, but this guy up top's also really interesting. And then you read about him and you're like, oh, right, he was at Brighton as a kid, sure. Yeah, why is he playing in the National League? That doesn't make any sense. What a season he's had. And he scored the first goal, a scissor kick, which bounced off the post, off the back of the keeper and in. I think they're giving it to Tolai. And, sometimes I can be a bit of a nerd about that stuff and be like, well, there's technically an own goal. When someone scores a scissors like that, you got to give them the goal. But he offers so much outside. His goals, he's not one of the top scorers in the league. But what he offers as a support striker, when he drifts out wide, on the ball, creatively, hard-working out of possession, technically strong, physically good. I mean, what a piece of recruitment from Vale to be the ones to go and get him, because I really think, I'd expect him to kick on again next season for sure, particularly if they're still in League Two, which looks decreasingly likely. Alan scored a penalty. Amanchi stiff-armed Hall and put Walsall 2-1 up. Then Garrity smashed in following a set play. And then Tolai both won and scored a penalty, which ended up being the winner. For Vale, mate, this is just, what a week. They beat Bradford in midweek. They beat Walsall here. They beat Crewe last weekend. They had that bizarre home defeat to Barrow, which just looked ridiculous when they could have gone third at that time. Instead, they're now second 3 games later, having beaten a lot of teams in the top part of the table. And you just have to hold your hands out. Is that a phrase?
Hold your hands out.
Just hold them out and say
more, please, Darren.
So Darren Moore, baptise me because you might be.
That
God.
would have been great if you'd said, and hold your hands out and just say more, please. Would have been perfect.
More, please. No, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold my hands up, actually, not out, because I've been a bit of a Vale skeptic all season, and I think now it's hard to be skeptical about this winning machine.
For sure. It helps that they've got players bang in form. Like Tolaj is clearly someone who we spoke about early in the season, whose technical ability looks very, very good for the level, and he's finding the back of the net at a time where it's really needed. And they're defensively very, very solid. They've kept 4 clean sheets in their last 5 coming into the Walsall game, and they battled back in having taken the lead to go 2-1 down and to fight back. And they defended the lead pretty well. I watched the last 25 minutes or so, and Walsall didn't really look like scoring. It was Port Vale on the break who looked by far the more dangerous in my mind. So really impressed by them. But just as I mentioned, it's not the easiest running. They're probably the side that I think will be top of the league with 3 games to play. Whether or not they're still top of the league at the end of the season, we'll see.
Nice. That's what it is at the top of the League Two at the moment. What I love most about this division is, if you're Walsall, dropping off the top is one thing, but there's no parachute. There's no soft landing because the team in 4th are 2 points back. Then there's 2 more teams 2 points further back from that. It's just like you could, and all of the teams have holes that you can pick in them, and all of them seem just as likely to suddenly get into good form or poor form from the reverse. It's just it's magical, I think. Lastly on Vale, I'd like to point out new names and young players. So let me flag up Reece Walters for the first time on NTT20. Looks the part, this 19-year-old
weird
central
story
midfielder.
With him.
Weird story where he's come through their academy. He's out of contract last summer. I think there was some interest from above the pyramid. Not above the pyramid, upwards. above Vale in the pyramid.
Yeah, Norwich,
And
I think
I think there might have been an injury as well, which didn't help things. He ends up re-signing in December, I think, or maybe January, and he's making the most of George Byers being out by playing in the base midfield and genuinely looking really exciting. And if you consider that they've also got Jack Shorrock, who's 17, 18, and in almost every matchday squad at left wing back with some big moments this season. When you consider that they sold Bailey De Pepper to Southampton last summer, who represents England youth teams, that is 3 really impressive young players for a League Two academy to produce. So, a lot of praise for Vale on this pod. Donny beat Cheltenham 2-0. Red card for Tim Dieng helped them out. 2 yellows, lunged in for the second one. Bit silly. Absolute Alamo after that for Donny. Loads of pressure. In the end, they needed Jamie Sterry. Not the most likely of goal scorers, but some absolutely unbelievable chest control to control a cross from Luke Molyneux and then get the shot away. Deflected and in. A very cute finish from Rob Street gave them a 2-0 win, which is big for Donny. I think I'm right in saying they've got quite a big match coming up. As I Google it, AFC Wimbledon at home. That's the perfect segue, because Wimbledon are up next. They beat Harrogate 1-0. They were 3 without a win before Saturday. They just needed to beat Harrogate. Now, it wasn't completely dominant. It wasn't unbelievably convincing, but they won. They got ahead, and they didn't throw away the lead as they have done recently. Johnny Jackson been criticised by some Dons fans recently for his use of subs, or I guess more specifically his lack of use of subs. They are the team in the league that give their subs the least amount of time on the pitch on average. He makes subs quite late compared to most League Two managers. They don't make very many of them either. I think only 2 teams have made fewer subs this season. So I think it was notable for him, and he'd have been pleased to see that, having brought on Foyo a bit earlier than usual, and then Piggott a bit later, those 2 combined to set up Ali Smith for the winner. Donny away on Saturday is absolutely massive, with Donny on 70, Wimbledon on 68. Donny having played a game less. I think if Wimbledon lose that, then they'll have 4 games to kind of tool up for the playoffs, where I think the vibe will be quite down because Wimbledon have been in the top 3. If they don't make the top 3, there'll be some disappointment. But if they can go into the playoffs in the right frame of mind, I do think they'll be a good playoff team, if that makes sense. I think the way that Wimbledon play will suit itself to 2-legged affairs and tight,
apart from
nervy
being
games.
unable to stay in front.
No, but I don't think that's as big a thing as you think. I think basically having never thrown away a lead all season, they then did it.
No.
3 times in 2 weeks.
It's not ideal timing.
Colchester beat Notts 1-0. This was a big one as well. And frankly, Notts were probably the better side. Created more shooting opportunities. Nothing majorly clear-cut. And then Colchester, as probably always was the game plan with Simpson and Oscar Thorne up front, who are quick and lively, to try and, catch Notts out with their high line and their lack of numbers at the back. Thorne making the most of a big mistake from Jarvis, who's just not really a defender anyway, and setting up Tyrese Simpson for the win. Another team who had not won in 3 before this game, so keeps Colchester alive, George. They are 3 points behind Grimsby. Grimsby are 3 points behind Notts County, and they're in 7th. They beat Morecambe 3-1.
Yes. Important and impressive result, I would say, for Grimsby off the back of the defeat at Crewe. Morecambe coming into it off their own win, very much thinking going into this game that they had a live chance of staying up, which looks to have been possibly extinguished. It's not done yet. Again, one of these where a win in the next game and teams above them losing will change the complexion again, but it looks like a tough ask now. But yeah, I think this is important for Town. As we say, if they'd lost this game, they would have dropped out of the playoff places with Colchester creeping in. Instead, they put in another good performance, and they can forget about the kind of brain fart that was Crewe away, where they were poor. They're putting in pretty consistently good performances, posting some good numbers. They're playing the best they have done all season, and I think they've got a fair crack in this. Not only getting into the playoffs, but if they get there, they'll probably be seen as the rank outsiders, but I'm not entirely sure that's fair, given the way they're playing right now.
20 wins in the league this season, George. 20 league wins for only the 4th time in their entire Football League history. It's been an amazing season for them. Kieran Zinedine Green at the double here, just like his namesake in the 1998 World Cup final. Luca Barrington with the best goal of the game from just outside the box. Morecambe, 9 away defeats in a row. Pretty hard to stay in any division if you can only pick up points in your home games. At the bottom, Bromley 4, Accrington 0. Tranmere 4, Chesterfield 0. Tranmere are no longer the team directly above the relegation zone. That's now Accrington Stanley, and they're 6 points above it. They got thumped by Bromley, not helped by some poor handling from Billy Crellin, who let a Congreve shot slip through his hands from range. Not helped by what I felt was a pretty harsh handball decision given against them. Michael Cheek scoring from the spot. Thompson with a back post header to make it 3-0, and then another penalty given for what was definitely a handball, again scored by Michael Cheek, who is now streaking towards the Golden Boot in his first ever season in the EFL. And then Tranmere beat Chesterfield 4-0. Tranmere had lost in midweek to Harrogate, lest we forget, and they needed to respond to that. And I mean, they did, except that Chesterfield had the biggest chances at 0-0. One big miss from Ola Kigbe in particular. And then Tranmere just rattled off 4 goals from that point. They'd only scored 32 in the whole season previously. So they added 12.5% of their total goals tally in one afternoon. Norman.
One half.
One half, yeah. Norman and Hendry and Davison and Finley, they're so much more confident at the moment, and that's being reflected. Great way to bounce back. And George, Accrington versus Tranmere on Saturday. Absolutely massive for both. Obviously, Morecambe having lost at Grimsby, but with Carlisle having come from 2-0 down to beat Newport.
And Morecambe hosting Carlisle on Saturday. So one of those teams will probably win.
Bottom four all playing each other. God,
yeah.
The fixture computer is one of my favourite of all computers.
For sure. And, as I said a second ago, it looks unlikely for Morecambe now, but they do host Harrogate on final day, which I think they'll be confident of getting 3 points in, or at least if they need 3 points going to that game, they'll feel confident they're able to do it. So you've got to worry for Accrington, conceding 8 goals in 2 games against Fleetwood and Bromley, having been winless in the 3 prior to that, albeit 3 draws. That 5-0 win over Newport at the beginning of March felt like that was it for them. It felt like they'd done it. And now it can probably be quite hard when you think you're safe, and then you're shipping goals, you can't pick up a win, and you're seeing teams below you pick up a fair bit. So, they're probably the ones I'm most concerned about now. And if they are beaten by Tranmere at home on Saturday, then you'd anticipate that one of Morecambe or Carlisle will win that game and close the gap even further. So concern for Aki for sure.
Some of the boos that rang out at Brunton Park when Newport went 2-0 up at Carlisle were, like wounded animal noises. Understandably so, because at that point, relegation is a formality. The second goal by Bobby Camwer, lights Camwer action, absolutely unbelievable. Just gets on the ball like 35 to 40 yards out, takes a touch and just shoots. Like it's like, and I'm sure I use this analogy quite a lot, it's like when you play FIFA and you accidentally press shoot when you don't mean to from 35 yards out, and then inexplicably flies perfectly into the top corner. It was an amazing goal from Camwer, put Newport 2-0 up. Howls of anger and derision as Carlisle stare down the barrel of double relegation. And then Georgie Kelly scores his first goal for the club in his 20th game, 14 months after joining. And then he scores his second goal for the club. And then Aaron Hayden stabs in a winner. And there's an 8-point gap to Aki, and it's unlikely. But as you say, Morecambe Carlisle next up on Saturday. Losers down for sure. Winner has a chance. They've still got to play Aki away, Carlisle as well. They've still got that fixture on the horizon. Barrow beat MK 3-0. Presley scoring twice, both really nice assists for his 2 goals. You could say the same for Smith's 3rd goal as well. Actually, Connor Mahoney, Isaac Fletcher and Ben Whitfield should be name-checked for their lovely assists. Also, Will Stanway put in a good performance in goal for Barrow. Now, that's kind of notable because he's taken Paul Farman's gloves, not literally, figuratively, and he's started the last 3 games in Farman's place. And I guess that's Andy Wing just wanting to see some Stanway who is brother of Georgia. He wants to see him ahead of the summer and of next season, checking out his goalkeeper department. And Stanway's, really standing up to the test and really did make some good saves here. For MK, it means 24 games, 16 defeats, only 16 points in that time, the worst in the division. Scoring less than a goal a game, conceding around 2 goals a game, only 2 clean sheets in 24, and a home record of 7 defeats in their last 11 with 2 wins and 2 draws. It's completely desperate. I mean, they just need the season to end and then have a lot of work to do. And Fleetwood, George. On the betting show, I said to you, I really thought you might pick Fleetwood this weekend because they've won their last 2 games 4-2 and 4-1, and you've always said that they're a good team, and maybe this is the time they string together a run. And you said, well, no, because the one thing this team has consistently done this season is trip themselves up when they look like they're starting a run. In this instance, losing 4-0 at home to Swindon. That's a pretty big trip up.
It's really weird. I maintain that Fleetwood on their day are as good as anyone in this league. But for some reason, they also throw in performances that are just as bad as anyone in the league. And we've seen that over the last 7 days. Thumping MK Dons 4-2 away from home, thumping Accrington 4-1 away from home in front of their own home fans who can't wait to see this new slick attacking side that Pete Wild's built, and they go and get beat 4-0 by Ian Holloway's Swindon. Just bizarre. I mean, it wasn't probably as bad as the scoreline suggests. Swindon scored with 3 of their 6-7 shots, and the other one was an own goal. Fleetwood missed a couple of opportunities. Rooney missed one header in particular that wasn't an easy chance, wasn't a great miss. Who knows? I mean, this is a Fleetwood side where it's all eyes on next season, really. And my overriding feeling is the signs are very positive, even if they do have this tendency to throw in bizarrely poor performances. But credit to Swindon, though, as well. They've been in my mind, a surprising success story under Ian Holloway. And they're another team, with an eye to next season who are doing all the right things.
For sure. Yeah, lots of... every time Swindon win and I look at the game, I look at the starting lineup, there's always a new name that's had a good game and, appears to be in good form and performing well. And I think that's testament to Holloway's management in the last few weeks. Glatzel was involved here and involved in a couple of the goals, which haven't seen much of this season. Sobowale's been really good at times as well. And they've reached their points tally from last season already with, 5-6 games to go. So, really positive stuff. Salford 2, Gills 2 finishes us off. Gillingham have drawn 5 games in a row. Not great for NTT20 discussion. This game saw 2 Scouse strikers swapping goals, Elliot Nevitt and Cole Stockton, and then cracking strikes from Kelly Namai and Romeo Hutton, 2 teams with unlikely really to have much to play for in their next few games. But the Ainsworth era at Gillingham begins with a couple of draws. Thanks for listening. It's been fantastic to whiz you through what was a great weekend in the EFL. Only 4 more weekends left of the regular season. We'll be here. We're always here. And we hope you enjoy listening to us. Thank you for doing so. And do make sure you check out the Reviver program on the British Heart Foundation website. We're doing this run tomorrow or Monday in Sheffield between Bramall Lane and Hillsborough, and it's for a really good and we think quite an important cause, and that is CPR training and gaining confidence in CPR, because you never know when you might need it, and you genuinely could save a life. And it takes 15 minutes to do the Reviver program. So please do that as a favour to us and to your future self. And thank you very much for listening. Go well.